My name is Michael Clark, President of the Conference of Consulting Actuaries and Managing Director at River Mercantile. I'm joined today by Rob Bacher, who's a Fellow of the Conference of Consulting Actuaries, and we're talking about his experiences in non-traditional actuarial roles. Rob, for this next segment, I want to talk a little bit more about your thoughts on leadership. You've probably seen a lot of different leaders over your career and had opportunities yourself to lead in different scenarios. So in thinking about people you consider to be successful leaders, what traits do they have?
Well, I could talk about this forever, Michael. There's a lot of great traits, I think. I've heard of the 5 C's: character, courage, compassion, competence, and creativity. But for me, I think really in today's world and even before, honestly, I think being inspiring is an important part of being a leader. Beyond just sharing what you do and how you do it, you need to be able to articulate why you're doing it and really making a sense of purpose. For me, I think that's important. As a leader of a team, I've taken that approach even when sharing things with our employees when I was in a corporate setting. Why are we doing this change? What's the story behind it? So they understand what you're doing and kind of understand where you're going with it, and gives them some level of transparency. I think setting clear expectations and rewarding positive behavior that you're looking for. I was in a situation where I was taking on a team and they weren't necessarily all pulling together. So I was pretty upfront early on. This is a team effort. We need to communicate effectively, work together, and be able to then do the good things that we need to together to be successful. And then rewarding that behavior and sharing with the group things that went well or didn't go well and lessons learned. So a lot of good things there. As a leader too, I heard this recently and I'll share it with the group. As a leader, whispers become shouts. So everything you used to perhaps whisper as an individual contributor or whatever, now when you say something like that, everyone hears it loudly. So be mindful of what you say and how you say it. I think it's important. Being supportive and empowering, something I really try to do. I think I probably learned more personally, Michael, from seeing leaders that I had above me doing things that I just really didn't like. And I said, I'm not going to do that going forward. This is how I'm going to approach ways once I became a leader myself.
No, that's excellent. As you think about your role as a leader within the teams that you've worked with, what adjustments have you had to make to be successful?
Well, there's always adjusting in today's world in particular, but one size does not fit all. You need to be adaptable, flexible, open to listening and improving. Again, getting other people's perspectives are important, and you need to not necessarily assume a person is good in XYZ situation. If they're doing something new, you need to be able to provide different level of support and comfort. So I think it's important to kind of be very mindful of what you're doing and what you're doing and who you're doing it with. Building in enough time is important. To get different perspectives. It always seems to take longer to get people together and bring everyone in line, but at the end of the day, it ends up in a better result. Treating people equally and fairly. I think, there's a common tendency, and I've seen this happen to myself, where you're going to go to your go-to person, and you're not really setting yourself up or the team for success down the road. I think everyone at least wants to have that opportunity. Some might not want it. But if the person's more introverted or shy, it's good to perhaps take them out of the team meeting setting and have that one-on-one discussion to really probe a little bit more and understand what they really want to do. And it's a little more effort, but I think at the end of the day, it gets them to feel like they're valued and that you're able to help them sort of develop as well. Keeping in touch frequently is important, sharing. And during these times right now that we're in, I think the more communication really is important to help grow trust and comfort that we're going to get through this.
So in thinking about, especially people that might be in the beginning stages of their career or middle of their career, what advice do you have for people on how to develop good leadership skills?
I think personally, you'll see it through some of the individuals you interact with. Whether they're good skills or bad skills that will make you not do what they're doing, I think that's probably more useful at times. Just reading is a good thing. There's a lot of information now that you can see. One thing I did with my team was really understanding them and doing some different sort of little exercises that we did. And feeling that sense of community is important to everyone, I think, that sense of belonging. So trying different things, there's no right or wrong answer, I think, honestly, Michael. You just need to try doing different things. I actually asked my team, what would you suggest we do? And ask them to kind of bring something to our team meeting and let them lead that as well. You know, a leader isn't necessarily a title. It's really kind of a mindset and a way of doing things. And every one of us could be leaders, regardless of title. It's just taking different perspectives and how do you make people sort of come together and bring us together to work well.
No, I like that. I very much like what you said there. In thinking about people that you've looked up to as successful leaders, who are some of your role models on the leadership front? People that you would look to and say, that is a great leader and this is why?
You know, for me, I think there's been a number of folks that I've worked with. One that I really enjoyed kind of their perspective was they would bring people along to meetings, including myself. And yes, they knew all the answers, but they positioned it so that it was something that I would do and share the result or the information or respond to a question that was going to be asked. We talked about that in advance, but again, relationships matter, building trust matter. It's all about the team. So bringing along teammates that produced and did the different work that you did and making them part of that relationship and building that trust and expanding it. I mean, it helps you, it helps the team, it just brings everyone along.
And then the maybe flip side to that question, are there, and you don't have to name names obviously, but are there examples of maybe bad leadership that you've seen, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the effects of bad leadership?
Yeah, and I've heard stories from others as well. I mean, this was from a senior executive even, honestly. Then I'll share it kind of more off the cuff, but basically, he had a leader that basically, regardless of whatever you gave them, they changed it. They didn't even bother to read it. It didn't matter if it was garbage or it was great. It was sort of that empowering. You felt unempowered basically, and it didn't really matter what you did. It just doesn't, it's just not a good leadership style in my opinion. We can all wordsmith things to death, but does it really add any additional value? You want to have your team understand, and maybe that person didn't set clear expectations of what they were looking for, or that there wasn't that openness to feel like you could go back and ask a question and confirm an understanding. So those are all things that I think are important. You want to make your team feel like you're working together and that you're always there to support and help. So again, that for me, you know, micromanagement, I've had that happen and it's just not a great feeling. I think you've got to build a level of comfort and trust. That takes time, but you got to be there to support and engage, and different people need to have different ways of checking in, or you checking on them, probably more so, especially in this world now where we might be virtual. It's important, I think, to not necessarily be there and answer everything so it's answered the way you want. It's good for them to be able to bring their perspective, otherwise you're going to stifle innovation. Yeah,
no, that's excellent examples there. Just to wrap up, I want to thank again our guest today, Rob Bacher, fellow of the Conference of Consulting Actuaries, for sharing some of his thoughts and experiences in the non-traditional actuarial roles that he's been able to work in. I also want to thank Melissa Chaco from Buck and Elizabeth Wiley from Chiron, who have helped field questions during our call today. And I want to encourage everyone to continue to join us for upcoming CCA events, be it webinars or our annual meeting coming up in the fall. And again, thank everyone for joining us today. And if you've got ideas or suggestions on other topics that you'd like us to cover, please feel free to send those our way. Rob, again, thank you for joining us and for sharing some of your time and experience with us.
Great. Thank you, Michael. It's been a great time.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.